Welcome to The Explainer. I'm so incredibly excited you're joining me today because we are diving into the absolute ultimate corporate rivalry. We're talking about a multi-decade battle that literally shaped pop culture as we know it. But honestly, it's way more than just a business story. We're going to uncover a truly surprising truth about human psychology. So we're looking at the Cola Wars today, not just as a case study, but as this amazing window into how our brains actually process the world around us. All right, let's just jump right in.
Let me hook you with this central mystery right out of the gate. Take a second and think about your own soda preferences. Now, factually speaking, Coca-Cola is the undisputed heavyweight. It's the most popular soda globally. But here's the wild part. When it comes to blind taste tests, the results actually flip. Pepsi consistently comes out on top. It's a total paradox, right? If a product actually tastes better when we can't see the label, why does the other one absolutely dominate the market when we can't? Well, we're about to figure out exactly how that happens. To solve this mystery, we actually have to look inside the human brain. Scientists in Texas did the super high-tech version of the blind taste test using fMRI brain scans. When people blindly tasted the two sodas, no clear preference. But the second test? It changed everything. Participants were shown the logos right before drinking. And once people knew they were drinking Coke, boom. Entirely new areas of the brain just lit up like a Christmas tree. These were the regions tied to memory, emotion, and identity. As the researchers noted, seeing that iconic logo triggers your brain to say, hey, this is something I recognize, and I want that.
So here is our roadmap for unraveling this mystery today. First, we'll look at the blind taste paradox. Second, the Pepsi generation. Third, we'll cover the new Coke disaster. And finally, we'll wrap up with the science of branding.
All right, part one, the blind taste paradox. Let's look at taste versus perception.
To really get what's going on with those brain scans, check out this taste test experiment done with MBA students. When they tasted two totally unbranded cups of cola, look at how tightly clustered Pepsi and Coke actually are. When you strip away the labels, our perceptions are nearly identical. Pepsi takes a tiny, slight lead in sweetness and caffeine, but the overall likability? It's virtually a tie. But watch what happens when the brand names are revealed. In this open test, these are the exact same consumers drinking the exact same liquids, but this time, they know what they're drinking. And wow, Coca-Cola completely detaches from the pack, shooting way up into high sweetness and high caffeine, and its likability just skyrockets. Keep in mind, absolutely nothing changed about the liquid itself. Literally just the visual presence of the brand did all that heavy lifting in the brain.
Moving on to part two, the Pepsi generation, or how pop culture got weaponized. So, to understand how a simple logo could actually alter human taste, we've got to take a step back into the 1980s. Here's a rapid-fire timeline for you. In 1975, Pepsi launched the famous Pepsi Challenge. Fast forward to 1984, they signed Michael Jackson to this massive $5 million deal. Coke starts panicking, right? So they launched New Coke in April 1985, only to humiliatingly surrender and bring back Classic Coke by July. This rapid, insane escalation completely defined a decade of pop culture.
The really crucial point here is how these two giants completely contrasted their marketing playbooks. Coke's advertising had always leaned heavily into themes of wholesomeness, nostalgia, global traditions. Think of Santa Claus and the polar bears. Classic, right? Pepsi, on the other hand, realized early on that they couldn't beat Coke at the heritage game. So instead, they decided to sell an identity. They aligned their brand with youth culture, pop music, and trend setting. If Coke was the classic, old-fashioned choice, Pepsi firmly planted its flag as the exciting drink of the future.
And to pull this off, Pepsi spent millions, and I mean millions, stacking their commercials with an absolute arsenal of A-list entertainers. They wanted their soda to be synonymous with the MTV generation. So after locking down Michael Jackson in '84 for that unprecedented $5 million, they just kept going. They paired rock legends David Bowie and Tina Turner in this crazy, extravagant sci-fi commercial. Soon after, you had Michael J. Fox dodging traffic in a legendary Super Bowl ad. And then Madonna pocketed another $5 million to debut her Like a Prayer music video to 250 million viewers. Pepsi wasn't just selling sugar water anymore. They were selling a full-blown pop culture experience.
But, a strategy like that definitely comes with some wild, unscripted moments. Picture this. January 27th, 1984. During a simulated concert for a Pepsi commercial, a pyrotechnics display malfunctions, and it accidentally sets Michael Jackson's hair on fire, causing second-degree burns. It was a huge deal. Pepsi settled out of court, and Jackson actually generously donated the entire $1.5 million settlement straight to the Bradham Medical Center. But here's the crazy part. This highly publicized, terrifying accident actually earned Pepsi public sympathy. It ended up boosting the campaign's massive visibility even more.
Which brings us to part 3, the new Coke disaster, the infamous 79-day meltdown.
While Pepsi was out there claiming the youth market, Coke started sweating. They felt their flagship product losing ground, so they decided to react, big time. On April 23, 1985, after conducting a staggering 200,000 favorable taste tests, Coke actually abandoned its 99-year-old formula for New Coke. They mistakenly thought they were losing strictly on the sip test. By focusing entirely on the liquid in the can, they completely misunderstood the deep psychological appeal of their own product.
The public reaction? It was instantaneous, and it was brutal. One elderly lady famously told Coke executive Don Ko that by changing the formula, quote, he had taken away her memories. I mean, wow, that perfectly hits the nail on the head. It illustrates the real truth here. Consumers didn't care primarily about the liquid. They cared deeply about their emotional bond with the brand itself. Suddenly, Coke employees are out there literally facing angry protesters and absolute media ridicule.
What followed was a 79-day public meltdown of epic proportions. People absolutely panicked. There was this guy in Texas who actually drove to his local bottler and hoarded $1,000 worth of the old Coke. Protest groups were springing up all over the country, including one calling themselves the Old Cola Drinkers of America, picketing with signs demanding the real thing. The company's consumer hotline was just flooded, taking 1,500 angry calls a day. Meanwhile, Pepsi CEO Roger Enrico is just sitting back, gleefully joking that Coke was changing their flagship brand just to be more like Pepsi.
Finally, after 79 agonizing days, Coca-Cola waved the white flag. They surrendered. On July 11, 1985, they reintroduced the original formula as Coca-Cola Classic. And the relief was palpable. Get this, a staggering 31,600 calls flooded Coke's hotlines in just the 2 days after they brought the classic formula back. Okay, finally, part 4, the science of branding, how these companies hack the brain. This really brings our whole story full circle, right? Because the new Coke disaster perfectly proves the brain scan phenomenon we started with. Marketing researchers have a name for this psychological connection. They call it brand equity. By definition, it's the added value a product acquires as a result of past marketing investments. Basically, when consumers have the right experiences over and over, both functional and emotional, those feelings permanently hardwired to the brand in the brain. The cola wars were never ever going to be decided on the tongue. They were always being decided in the mind.
Coke's true superpower lay in decades and decades of cultural presence. Take sports, for example. They've been the official beverage sponsor of the FIFA World Cup since 1978. In 2006, they launched the exclusive FIFA World Cup Trophy Tour, brilliantly connecting their brand to the emotional highs of global sports. When you combine those massive shared global rituals with enduring, comforting cultural imagery like Santa Claus and the polar bears, Coca-Cola created a relationship with the consumer that is far, far stronger than any simple blind sip test could ever break.
So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought. Think about your own purchasing habits for a second. When you walk down the aisle at the store, why do you grab the specific items you do? The next time you reach for your favorite brand, whether it's a soda, your favorite pair of running shoes, or even a car, ask yourself, are you actually tasting the product, or are you tasting the marketing? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to explain the fascinating world around us.